Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And it is brought to you this hour by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet, take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. Geoff Mosher, who I believe had a birthday yesterday, is with us today from the Inside the Birds podcast. He is all over this Eagles team as a lot of interesting stories are developing as camp is fully underway, and we've got plenty to kind of dive into. Don't forget the Eagles and the Steelers on Thursday night. You can hear the game live right here on 97.3 ESPN. Not this Thursday, next Thursday. Tomorrow night, it is the Hall of Fame game, but not quite the Hall of Famer, not a Hall of Fame vote, but still very good. Geoff Mosher is here. What's going on, Mosher?
How we doing, Mike? What's going on?
We are very busy, man. We got so many interesting stories. Training camp is like that time of the year where this guy stands out, and he's the darling of camp and all that good stuff. But obviously there's some interesting storylines. Let's start with one that kind of came out today. Davion Taylor, who was out of nowhere, became kind of a story. People were kind of intrigued. Oh, wow, I keep getting asked, could Taylor really actually help this team? Well, he got hurt and is going to miss some time, which could stunt his possible development to help this team this year.
Yeah, it certainly could. He has a calf injury. He's listed as week to week. He had come back a couple days ago from a different, well, what they listed as a different injury, a lower leg, I think. And then he left during warmups, and we haven't seen him since. So, as you mentioned, a calf injury is a tricky one because I've seen calf injuries that surprisingly have lingered for several weeks. I've seen Fletcher Cox have one and be back within 2 weeks. So, as we love to say in this business, right, everything is case by case or depends on how the person heals. But as you mentioned, Mike, this is a player who needed every single rep that he can get. So even if it's 1 week, even if it's 2 weeks, even if it's 4 or 5 practices, that's time that he really needed out on the field to kind of improve from a real non-entity type of rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody had any expectations that he would help the defense at all this year until the last couple of days where it was, hey, this guy's out there. And he's only out there getting extensive snaps, most because Singleton has been out with COVID. And then he got these extra opportunities, and it was like, hey, maybe this guy needed some more development or needed a little bit more hands-on. And we're starting to see a little bit of that, I feel, and I want to get your opinion on this, from a lot of guys in this camp. You're starting to hear J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, well, Sirianni's very hands-on. It's almost like we have 2 wide receiver coaches. It seems that this coaching staff is very vocal and very hands-on.
Yeah, very, very vocal. You've seen it since the start of camp, especially the last 2 days with the pads come out. You know, Jason Avant made a joke on the Q&A show on our Inside the Birds platform that he doesn't even know why the Eagles need a wide receivers coach because it seems like Nick Sirianni is drilling the wide receivers every single day. He did it again today. There was a rep pretty early in the team drills, and Sirianni looked at Rager and said something very direct. Clearly wasn't happy. Yesterday, you yelled at basically the entire offense after it didn't line up correctly, but it wasn't really the offense. It was the wide receivers he was getting into. So this is a position where you wanted this coaching staff to really start to bring the hammer and show that it can develop the talent better than past regimes have. They're trying, and we'll have to see whether or not this works. I do remember last year, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside being kind of a guy who we thought had a good training camp, but it did not translate to success on the field, obviously. Here this year, he's doing what's asked. It does look like he's getting off scrimmage a little bit better, but I will emphasize that much of the work so far, this whole camp has been odd in its ramp up. Not odd, I mean predictable because of all the time that was off between OTAs and the start of camp, but it's a very pronounced and exaggerated ramp up process. So whereas normally you'd see a lot more move the ball sessions, so far we've seen a lot of red zone. We've seen a lot of short yard. It's shorter stuff. Not a whole lot of opportunities for guys to show their separation skills down the field.
Yeah, and I know the wide receiver is an interesting conversation because Devonta Smith getting hurt. I guess he's still working on the side to try to keep himself sharp, but that opens up opportunities for others. And just reading through the transcript, Quez Watkins, John Hightower were two guys that I think Nick Sirianni brought up as guys who have kind of taken advantage of some opportunities here.
Well, they've certainly taken advantage from a rep standpoint. John Hightower made a really nice catch there. There were only two real splash plays today. It seemed like, first of all, the veterans got the day off, and secondly, there was a heavy emphasis on the run. So Hightower made one of the splash plays, really went up to catch a ball from Jalen Hurts on the left side with Zach McPherson draped on him. And when he came down, he made sure to keep both feet in bounds, which was questionable at first, but then they had the referee there who signaled him in bounds. It was a really nice grab. But I will say, I feel like Hightower has been kind of inconsistent, and he's another guy that the coaches are always kind of talking to after certain plays. Now, they're just coaching, doing their job, but he certainly is taking advantage of the reps, getting out there and giving himself the opportunity to prove himself. Quez Watkins, I feel, has been more consistently improved as far as his route running. His body looks ready for a physical toll. He's gone up to get a few balls. I mean, he looks like the one you would say of last year's rookie wideouts has kind of taken everything seriously and really come in to compete for a spot every single day.
Hey, with that's the wide receiver look at things, but I guess what kind of beat or feel do we have on where Zach Ertz is going to be in this offense? I know that if I feel, Moshe, every time they're asked about it, they just go back to the canned, he's accomplished a lot. He's really a great player. Watch him on tape. You can see how great he is. But nothing short of we're going to use him a lot. He did say yesterday we do throw the balls to the tight end a lot if you watch us. But is there any feel, I mean, just the fact that he's wearing pads and out there, is that something?
Well, I do feel like the biggest thing you can read into anything is that we are now about a little more than a week into camp, and Zach Ertz has not been in front of a microphone yet. And I have a feeling there's a lot of intent behind that, because right now, as you mentioned, the messaging coming out of Eagles camp is, oh, he's valuable, he's a good player, but it's all coming from the same people, right? Howie and the coaches. You haven't heard the Zach Ertz side of the story, and I find that pretty interesting considering how important of a topic he was headed into camp, that you still haven't heard Zach Ertz speak, and I'm not sure that you're going to. So we'll see what happens there. I will say, though, I am shocked and surprised, and I was wrong. I thought that they would put him in bubble wrap to not get him hurt, but he has been out there. Now, the way they mix and match him in, it's not like he gets a ton of reps, and of course they've had 2 veteran days off in 7 days already, and he's been part of both days off, so he's really only practiced for 5 days. He's really only practiced in pads once, but he did catch a couple of balls early yesterday in the padded practice, and he's out there. So
it's hard.
It seems like they're trying to show people that he's healthy and he can still catch the ball, but not trying to put him in too much harm's way.
Well, I bring this up, Moshe, because it's hard to see that if he's on the roster, that he just has no role. And then you hear what Fulgham said today, and that makes you kind of, and now it's a new coaching staff, but when Fulgham essentially came out and said, I didn't play because Jeffrey was back and he took my spot, that makes you say, we've talked about this before. New coaching staff don't know, but if Ertz is here, he's got to have some role. He's just not going to sit there with his helmet draped under his elbow.
Right. You hit it on the head. We've talked about this before. I've specifically referenced the Alshon Jeffrey, Travis Fulgham dynamic that happened last year. That was not a good thing for the team, and that could threaten to be a bad thing for this year's team if Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are still here while you're trying to make Dallas Goedert your number one tight end. And I'll tell you, typically the team keeps 3. The rookie free agent, Jack Stoll, they really like, athletic kid, can do a lot of H-back type things. But Tyree Jackson, the former Buffalo quarterback, who is 6'7", has not only caught a lot of passes, and we talked about this on Inside the Birds that's going to drop tomorrow morning at 6. He's not the worst blocker in the world for a guy who's never played the position. So now all of a sudden you're looking at a guy who's 6'7", huge target, can hold his own right now as we sit here today, has done adequately. I wouldn't call him a good blocker, but I mean, he hasn't embarrassed himself. Now all of a sudden you're thinking, we lost Noah Togiai last year trying to sneak him through waivers. We may not want to do that with Tyree Jackson. So are you going to keep 5 tight ends just to have Zach Ertz on the roster and Tyree Jackson? That's kind of hard for me to imagine. So I still think at some point this thing's going to kind of have to come to a head, and Zach Ertz is going to have to find a new destination.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have 3 preseason games coming up, and then between the end of the preseason and the first game, you've got about 2.5 weeks or so to kind of figure out there. Do they play them in preseason? How do they even handle these preseason games? I think that will be very interesting because there's 3, not 4. Do they just say not doing it all together? I feel like that's going to be interesting because what do you do with Ertz in the games? Do you want to show that he can play, or do you want him to not get hurt?
Right, and even though I'm surprised to see him out here in the padded practices, it's not like the padded practice that they had yesterday that he was involved in is a full tackle to the ground session. It's more like thud, which for the passing game is like 2-hand touch, right? I mean, you just got to kind of get your hands on him and then they'll blow the whistle.
All right, Moshe, let's look at a couple other things that are happening over there. Zach McPherson, we always like to hear about the rookies. And apparently, the fact that he is not being asked to jump in and learn how to be a starter, they can kind of, go at their own pace with him. And that seems to be working out well for him. And I've read a lot of good things, including DeCecco. Is DeCecco there today?
He was there today,
all right,
yeah.
Because we
were all there, him, Adam, and myself.
Oh, wow. All right. So he was tweeting today about how impressed he was with McPherson.
Yeah, it's hard not to be. That catch that I mentioned that John Hightower made where he had to go up and get the ball, that was Zach McPherson who was covering him, and Zach did everything right. He just, he can't jump as high as John Hightower. So he's been everywhere. He had, I was there yesterday. I thought he had at least 3 pass breakups. Now he's running mostly with the second team, right? So he's facing different quarterbacks and different wide receivers. But he did get some first team run today, and it felt because Darius Slay was out, so Steven Nelson became the de facto number 1, and McPherson became the number 2. And I thought he did a nice job again. Very active, very around the ball, handsy. So these are good things. And if they obviously, Mike, the big caveat is we're only, a week in. So if it continues, the better he does, the more confidence you have in your optionality, where if you want to play him a little bit, get him on the field during the regular season, you can bring him on the outside, move Steven Nelson inside because Nelson has slot experience. That might help you move Avonte Maddox around a little bit more if you're beat up at safety and McLeod's not back yet. It's week 1, week 2, who knows? And you're not loving what you're seeing of Kevon Wallace. Maybe you want Avonte in there as kind of a hybrid guy. It just gives them more options. The more that Zach McPherson can do. And I'll say that I think Avonte Maddox is right at home in the slot where he should be. I think he's a lot more confident and playing a lot better there.
I would agree that that makes you feel a heck of a lot better. That he is on the inside now in that spot. And they have some more depth there at that inside spot. There are guys who that's where they play. If you had to ask another one of those guys, let's say Maddox got hurt playing on the outside, and now you're going to Josiah Scott and saying, hey, now we need you to go to the outside, or Michael Jacquet, we need you to go to the outside. That really gets fickle. Now the question would be if Steven Nelson got hurt, then what happens?
Yeah, that would be the big question.
Or Darius Slay, obviously.
Right. It would still leave them in a pretty, difficult situation because, again, right now you're seeing flashes of Zach McPherson, what he can do. It doesn't mean he's ready to start outside and play, 80 to 100% of the snaps. You would like to gradually ease him in and find the areas where he functions best. He, by the way, can also play inside because he did that at Texas Tech a lot last year. He was inside and outside. So, again, it gives them optionality.
I like that, and it's good to know that, they have a guy that they don't have to force out there, and do stuff. Injury stuff, I guess Kerrigan, what do we know there?
It's not major. I'm told it's a thumb injury, actually, not a whole hand or wrist or anything like that, as far as I've been able to understand. So, today was a veteran day off, so he probably wouldn't have practiced even if he did practice yesterday. So I imagine he'll probably be back out there soon unless they're just being ultra cautious with him.
Now, I thought Gannon was interesting. He was asked about, do you want to have a 3-down linebacker? In other words, is Eric Wilson or Alex Singleton? How do you feel that the linebacker unit will be utilized?
Hard to get a gauge on it now with Singleton out, who, by the way, was on the sidelines today. So I think he's in the protocol I don't know, it's a ramp-up thing. Like, it sounds like Singleton will be back out there fairly soon. The safety who was on the COVID list was actually practicing today. I'm sorry, he was activated already, Andrew Adams. But because of Singleton being out and because of Davion Taylor being out, you have seen a multitude of guys rotating in with the first team. Eric Wilson seems to be the constant. It's just who's alongside him and what kind of package are they in. Sometimes it's Jernard Avery, but he's rushing the passer. Sometimes it's TJ Edwards. Today, Jacoby, why can't I think of his last name? Stevenson?
Stevens, yeah.
Stevens, right, the rookie. I noticed yesterday that he was getting some first-team looks. He got more first-team looks today, and he came up with an interception during the team drills on Jalen Hurts. So good for the rookie there. Rashad Smith yesterday and the day before was taking first-team reps. So you might as well take all the linebackers they got, put their names in a hat, pull one out, and that guy is probably run on the first team alongside Eric Wilson.
Well, at least, they've got some more interesting options than we thought, at least at this time last year, right? They're better at that position than they were last year.
They've got more bodies. I'll leave judgment on better until, we actually see them play against other teams and what they do.
Howard at running back, how do you see the other guys? Because we talked a little bit about Howard and that he has impressed. Where is that running back? Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, Kerryon Johnson, I thought had some interesting comments himself today by saying, hey, man, this offensive line is really good.
Yeah, I'm sure all these running backs love the offensive line. And Brooks and Sayamalu haven't even been out there for most of it. But I will say, I think Kerryon Johnson right now is kind of a guy who only I sporadically see in action on the field. Right, right now the three guys who get the most run when you're talking first and second team, you're talking about Miles Sanders, you're talking about Boston Scott, you're talking about Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard, did I say that? Yeah, Jordan Howard, right? And Kenny Gainwell, four guys right there. Howard, to me, and he said this in his press conference today. He said, look, his stats sucked last year, but he was basically told by Chan Gailey, the offensive coordinator, which is something we reported a long time ago, that he doesn't fit the offense. So he really never had a shot from day one. They kind of made him into a goal line back. That was all he could do, which is, of course, you saw his average last year was like 1.2 yards per carry. Here, he's in shape. He seems re-energized. He looks good. Look, he's not an explosive running back. We all know that, but he's a guy who can get you up the middle and get downhill pretty quickly. And I've seen that. I think if you're looking at the top running backs right now, we're going to make the team based on what you've seen after a week. You would say Sanders, you'd say Howard, you'd say Gainwell and Scott.
Yeah, I'm Gainwell, we heard a lot about the draft. We always love to hear the draft choices and what they're doing and how they're adapting, but what kind of role will they have? And Gainwell's a guy I'm very intrigued by what kind of role, based on hearing about how good a guy like, and the fact, how good a guy like Howard has looked, and then based on the fact that they brought Kerryon Johnson in here. It was kind of a interesting signing. And we kind of talked a lot, Geoff, about the signings this offseason. The messaging was kind of that they think they're going to be pretty good. Don't you?
Well, I always thought that the signings meant that they were going to try to upgrade as many positions as possible without spending a lot of money because they didn't have. And Kerryon Johnson was a guy who you could claim his contract off waivers, and if he didn't make the team and you cut him, there's no guaranteed money left.
Right.
So it was a very affordable way to try to upgrade the team. And yes, to your point, it was try to compete, to try to be as good as you can be given your financial limitations and also given the fact that you are trying to turn the roster over. But if you're going to learn anything about your quarterback, about your left tackle, about a lot of key young players on the team, you can't do it by losing every game 40-0. You have to be, and you can and should try to be as competitive as you can in the NFL because things can turn around quickly.
In your mind, Geoff Mosher, is there a battle at left tackle, or has that already been decided?
I mean, look, I'll say this. I think that the leader, Jordan Mailata, has done a lot already to make the gap between him and Andre Dillard like a gulf. Not, there's nowhere near. So I suppose it's possible that Mailata could break down, fall on his face, do terrible, and all of a sudden Dillard, gets reinvigorated. But if you're calling it today, it is Jordan Mailata in a TKO.
Right. That's the indication that we're getting from a lot of people, as well as yourself there. I know Andrew said the same thing yesterday, and it sounds like that is kind of the direction that it's going. So, all right, football at 4, Eagles, lot going on there. Is there any player, person, something that I have not touched on today that you think is something that is relevant to get out there about what has gone on, early in this camp here? No,
I think I would just say that, and thanks to Muhammad Malik there, wishing me a happy birthday, appreciate it. I would say Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett are doing an excellent job. I know that there's a lot of headlines right now on Sweat, but I think Barnett is really picking it up. So that gives them two really good pass rushers there opposite Graham. And Javon Hargrave has been fantastic, in my opinion. And not just from my opinion.
Like that.
What I've been told too. Yeah, Javon Hargrave.
Hargrave, Fletcher, Brandon Graham, Sweat, Kerrigan, Barnett. Sounds like you got the purple people leaders up front there.
We'll see.
All right, Thursday night, Eagles-Steelers next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. Listen to the game live, 97.3 ESPN. Let me get your prediction. Will we see Jalen Hurts play in that game?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think that you should. Yeah, but there's one fewer preseason game this year, and this is a guy who needs as many reps as possible, like preseason reps, so I think you will see him.
All right. At Geoff Mosher, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It drops tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., so get that wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, tomorrow Adam Kaplan is here. Andrew's on Friday. Jeff will be back on Monday. Have a great rest of your week, man.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
All right, Geoff Mosher here, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, Football at 4.